Hey everybody, it's Azure Moore here from Aeromac Real Estate Team, and in this video we're going to talk about 5 ways to help sell your home this year. But before we get into it, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me. Okay, so everybody knows that, sometimes it's a great time to sell, sometimes it's a not so great time to sell, but no matter what, people are buying and selling homes year round. Think back a couple years ago when we were in this crazy seller's market where you could just sell the home 20, 30, $300,000 over asking price and people were doing it, right? Fast forward to where we're at now with the mortgage rates that have changed and got a little bit higher than most of us prefer. It becomes a little bit more difficult for the sellers to sell like they were 2 years ago, 3 years ago, or even last year. So what you really want to do is, focus on what can you do to help sell your home and get the most money out of it and, typically a quicker sale. You may not need a quick sale, but would you rather have people putting in offers day one, knowing that you don't really need to move for 2 months, or it's sitting on the market for 2 months, knowing that you need to sell like now so you can get to your next home or move to your next location because you had a job transfer or whatever it is. So I'm going to present you with 5 key things that will help. Number 1 is depersonalize and declutter. You don't want a bunch of junk that the potential buyer has to walk around. You don't want to be a hoarder. It makes the house look like it's worth less because it's junky. And it just, first impressions are everything. So you don't want to have a buyer walk into your home thinking, wow, this is really junky. Have you ever walked into a friend's house, family member's house and thought, oh, this house is rough? It could be a mansion, but if it's cluttered and you can barely move around, it's going to put in the heads of the buyers, they're already starting off on the wrong foot. So depersonalize as well. You want the buyer to picture themselves in the home, not picture you and your family in the home. So if you have a lovely painting or portrait of you and your family above the mantle, take it down. I'm sure it's great, but again, the potential buyer wants to envision themselves and their family, not look at your family on every wall. The same thing goes with religion. Guys, we're a melting pot. So your religion may not be the same as the potential buyers. And I know you may not care about that, but they might. So it could make a difference in putting in an offer or not, or them bringing that extra $5,000, $10,000 on the offer just because it didn't quite feel like this is it. Because that's what you want. You want the buyer to walk in and say, this is the house. Not, oh, this is okay. Let's see what we have next and we'll come back to it. You want them to walk in and everything be as perfect as possible. So, in addition to decluttering, we'll get into open houses here shortly, and I'll actually do a whole nother video on that. So again, don't forget to subscribe and look for that one. So what you want to do is you don't want dishes in the sink, a messy table. You don't want to have personal stuff laying out, things like that. So we'll get into that a little bit more in another video. So number 2, to me, is actually one of the biggest things is the curb appeal, because again, that's the first thing they're going to see. So if they drive up to your home to do a showing or there's an open house and your grass is 3 feet tall and you got 2-tone paint because you started painting the house and didn't finish, you got leaves in your gutters, everything just looks a mess, again, they're already starting off on the bad foot. And I'll tell you a quick side story. So in addition to being a realtor, I'm also an investor. My very first investment with my wife, 9 years ago, we bought this home, remodeled it. It was fantastic. 2 days before the open house was scheduled, and I wasn't a realtor then, so I had my realtor schedule the open house. So the Thursday before, we get a call from the contractor that the pipe blew up. And we're like, what happened? And it needed to be replaced. So they had to dig from the street to the house, dig this trench, right? And so they dig this trench and they're like, yep, we can get it done. We can get it inspected. We can get it refilled by Friday afternoon. So that way we're good for the open house. And well, the inspector couldn't get to it. So by law, by code, they had to leave it open until the inspector could inspect the pipes. So Saturday morning rolls around. We have the signs out. Me and my wife go because we're like, oh, we want to see how this works. And so we're just hanging out. And I remember staring through the window and a car pulls up and they look around and they, their face kind of starts to frown. They see this giant hole and this giant trench dug across the yard, pile of dirt. We've got cones and caution tape because we want to be safe, but it looks like a murder scene, right? And so, they just kind of look around, shake their head, and drive off. Now, of course, the pictures that we had didn't have that because we took the pictures a week before and the grass was manicured and everything. But at that moment, I realized, wow, it matters that much. They didn't even step foot in the house. And again, it was beautifully done, but they never made it to the front door because of the curb appeal. So that's why it's super important. So again, you want to wrap the hoses. You don't want it strung across the yard. You just want to have it nice and tidy, and have some pride and ownership. Because if someone believes you have pride and ownership, they're going to believe that you took care of your home. Whether you did or you didn't, that's a good step for the buyer to say, okay, they've been maintaining this home from the outside all the way throughout the inside. So that could potentially raise the value to the buyer of your home. They could say, looks like they really took care of this one. I'm willing to put in a full asking offer. Or, oh, there's multiple offers. I'm willing to come up that $5 or $10 grand to beat the other offers. So be ready to show. We kind of went over open house things again. You want it to look like someone lives there if you live there, but you don't want it junky. You don't want dirty dishes in the sink. And I know I said that already. Clean the windows, vacuum, little simple things. And again, I'll go through an open house video and I'll provide an open house checklist with that one. For this one, I actually do have a seller's guide. It should be in the description. If not, I'll make sure to put it in the comments below. Or you can just shoot me an email or send me a message on here, a comment, and I will get that out to you guys. So just be ready to show. Open house is one thing. Your agent should be preparing you for that, kind of give you what you need to do, but it's the same for showing. And I get some of us work 9 to 5, we have kids, we have pets, and it's hard to maintain that. But before you leave every morning, just assume you're going to get a showing. Because sometimes you may get the showing notification while you're at work and it's for 2 hours. You can't rush home and clean, or maybe you can. Maybe you work from home. But if you can't, like a lot of people still are going to work, you need to have that house show ready at all times. Just assume at any given time, you're going to get a call from your agent or a notification that you have a showing coming up in the near future. And you do not want to be scrambling. What you do is think of it like almost packing for a trip, and you have all your stuff ready to go, like your toothbrush and stuff. Just put that under the counter in a bag, an overnight bag, things like that. Talk to your realtor, ask them for recommendations, and hopefully they should be able to provide you with some. But that way it looks lived in, but you don't want a toothbrush just sitting out with the toothpaste open. You don't want a brush with a bunch of hair sitting on the sink. You want it to look clean and presentable, but still like someone lives there, because obviously someone lives there. This leads me into the next one, professional staging. Number 4, professional staging. A lot of people think, oh, that means I have to pack up all my stuff and spend a bunch of money for a stager to come in and bring their furniture. And that's not always the case. If your home is vacant, I would absolutely recommend at least looking into it, see how much it costs, because I will tell you, a lot of agents will tell you, and of course stagers will tell you, the presentation means a lot. So when they walk in, some people cannot visualize where their furniture would go. Open concept is tough for a lot of people to say, where does the kitchen start and where does the living room or dining room end? They can't visually see that separation unless there's furniture. And they also want to see how big. Okay, I have this sectional. Oh, they have a sectional too. Great. I know my sectional will fit. Oh, and it fits perfect like this. That's super helpful. But if you're occupying the home while you're trying to sell it, a stager may be able to come in and just help reorganize and kind of rearrange the furniture so it's more functional and it flows with the house more. Of course, they're still going to charge for that, but that'll be a much less charge than you trying to get a storage unit, pack all your stuff, stick it in there, and have them bring in new furniture. And again, it may be worth it. I've had clients that have done that exact thing, and they're like, wow, that was perfect. I've had people that just stayed on Airbnb while their house was on the market. And of course, if you're fortunate enough to be able to buy the new home first, buy the new home, move all your stuff, and then professionally stage it. But at least, when you think of staging, think, okay, I maybe just need to accessorize, depersonalize, but maybe they'll bring in some trees, fake plants and stuff, and kind of sort it on your bookshelf. You may be able to do it yourself if you're, artistically and design inclined, but something to look into because that makes a difference for the buyer. Again, I get it. It's your furniture. You've lived with it. You're used to it. You think it's fine, but you're not the one you're trying to convince to buy your home. You're trying to convince strangers. So you want to keep things as neutral and as functional and flowing as possible. And then lastly, again, in this market, we're not in 2021, 2022, where we can just throw a number out there and people will sure, wave money at you like I will take it. So pricing, you have to price and know your options before you list. So that way there's no surprises. Out here in Forney, Rockwall, Royce City, Fate, Wiley, where we have new construction at every corner out here. So you see a lot of new builds. Like Forney, for example, in 2010 to 2020, the population's doubled. Well, Forney didn't have that many houses back in 2010, if anybody's familiar. They've had to build. So most of the houses are new. Most of the houses out here are newer than 2000, and I'd say more newer than 2010. So your main competition are new builds. If you have a 2018 home, that's fairly new, but why would somebody buy that for the same price when they can get a new build right down the street? So you need to be educated. You need to do your research, or again, hire a realtor that's familiar with the area, that's willing to put in the work, do the comparables and say, hey, I know you want this much for it, but to be honest, one neighborhood over, the houses are selling for that price brand new, so we got to stay below that. Or we can compete with that, and here's why. Because you did updates, or they didn't do updates, or whatever it may be. So price is very, very important. It's always been important, but again, when there's a shortage of houses and a shortage of inventory, you can kind of get away with not being as accurate. But right now, because we have so many new builds, if you look at my marketing update, every week there's like another 50 new listings, and at least half of those are new builds, because we have, I don't know, probably 10 or 12 neighborhoods just here in Forney alone that are being built, or phases on neighborhoods that are being built. So they know that the growth is here, and we're finally catching up to that. But you have to know your price, or your house may sit on the market until you start doing price reductions, and nobody wants to get into that situation. So again, if you're local, reach out to me. We'll do a CMA. We'll do basically comparables, let you know what we think your home is worth. That way, at least you know what you're going into. Of course, I'm going to tell you, it makes it a lot easier to list with an agent, especially if you've never done a for sale by owner yourself. You have to do the negotiations yourself, the paperwork, all these things that, again, this is what we do every day. This is why we're here. But I get, if you want to do for sale by owner, at least know what you're doing. Do the research. Get your price right. Don't just decide, hey, my neighbor sold for $500,000, so I'm going to sell for $500,000. Well, what if your neighbor's house is twice as big? What if they have a pool? What if they did updates? What if their yard is bigger? All these things make a difference. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. Again, if you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and click that. And if you have any questions, comments, if there's another video you'd like me to do, just write it in the comments, send me a message, send me a text, and we'll definitely get that knocked out. And I will see you on the next video.